All right. So not too long ago, the Notre Dame suffered a terrible loss, the football team. And we figured we'd do a recording about it. But that was a few weeks ago at this point, the building. And if that was a few weeks ago at this point, we were going to do one right afterwards, but we were busy. So we're doing it now. And we have a French expert with us all the way from France. They flew in just to talk about this, right?
Where is the expert?
Well, maybe it's more interesting to hear what you thought about it. Think with everything that happened.
I think people are going to hate me if I say what I think about
Why?
it. Because they're
you
not
don't like that building or
because
something?
they're not going to expect me to say that.
Okay.
Well, let's put it back in context, right? It was like 9 a.m. here or something, and I got a text message from one of my good friends who lives in Paris, who's an architect. And she's like, "Oh my God, Notre Dame is on fire." And I'm like, wait, what's happening? And she sends me like pictures from her office building where, you know, she could see Paris' skyline and you see like fire, like clouds of smoke going up. And I'm like, oh, what the hell? And oftentimes when she sends me like, you know, news, I kind of like just wait for her to feed me news so I don't have to look at it.
Right.
So I kind of did that for like an hour or so, but she kept like messaging me saying that it's getting worse. So I actually looked it up and saw, you know, pictures with the whole roof being in flames and like it was really like a big fire. And it was what I think the scary part was that like, are they even doing anything about it? Like, it looks like it's burning quite a bit, guys, and it looks like a lot of it is burned already. What are you doing? You know, but apparently things didn't work out according to what they were planning to do for the intervention.
What do you mean?
Well, it seems like the biggest reason why they were holding off on putting water to turn the fire down was that they were worried that the weight of the water would actually make the roof collapse even more, the ceiling collapse.
Okay.
That's why they were kind of, you know, trying to figure out what is the best way to approach this fire.
Right.
And one of the saddest probably image that we saw on the big screen TV was that spire completely, you know,
falling over,
collapse on the building. So that was pretty unexpected, and it's such an icon of Paris and Gothic architecture that, you know, it's sad because it's never going to be the way it was.
Oh, yeah.
But, you know, I mean, to me, it's like, you know, it's life. Things die, disappear, grow back, new things happen.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's pretty amazing that we were able to preserve it that way for so long that it's not a forever thing. Like, you know, maybe there's going to be an earthquake or a war or, you know, like, who knows, aliens, zombies, Game of Thrones, dragons. We don't know, you know. So I'm not saying that you kind of like always have to be prepared to lose everything you have and you know, but it kind of, you shouldn't get too attached to things. And you should, you know, it's like people, right? I mean, you lose someone, that person is never going to be back, but you kind of have to keep looking forward and have good memories of it, you know?
Yeah, I think anytime there's a catastrophe, right, there's the catastrophic news, catastrophic architecture, emergency, like anything like this, crisis, right, or time of crisis, I'm very hesitant to jump on a mic or to start tweeting out stuff and giving an opinion on this way or that way. The most I'll do is, you know, regurgitate just what's happening, which in my mind is just information, just news, not opinion. And I don't like the immediate emotion that everyone has when something bad happens or something good happens. It's too much. It makes me very uncomfortable. Like when everyone feels sad, I'm like, all right, let's pause for a moment and think about this. And I think also this, quite frankly, was kind of blown out of proportion in some ways because the first thing we think about is the Twin Towers, at least as an American.
That's what I thought.
And I think, okay, internet. Well, you're an expat.
Well, when
but
you
I
lived
think,
in New York, you know, you
sure.
kind of have to think.
But I think a lot of people now, when they see a building on fire, a building that's about to collapse, they think about the Twin Towers, right? That's probably where a lot of people's minds go. And the news it seemed like they were presenting it at that scale of horror. You know, it's like the you don't know the Hindenburg, do you? The blimp? The Hindenburg? It was filled with hydrogen, filled with some kind of, it was a blimp, you know, floating blimp.
Oh,
and it caught fire, and the whole thing just went down in seconds. And it's a famous clip, the video camera of it is in black and white, and you hear the reporters say like, "Oh, their humanity," and he's screaming. But the news now, it's like the Notre Dame's on fire. Oh my God, the spire, the iconic spire. Barbara, are you saying this? I'm here, George. It's so hard to believe, and blah blah blah. It's like, oh my fuck. And my first thought is, okay, are there babies in there? Was there like a nursery, a school of kids, and now they're on fire? No one's in there. All right, well then let's tone it down a little bit.
That was my first reaction. Was like, okay, is the building currently being visited by hundreds of tourists, and they're trapped in a cathedral that's burning hell, or is the building was closed and everybody's safe and it's just wood that's burning? Right. You know, and like when you find out the building's empty, it's like, okay, well, look at it, guys. It could have been way worse. Like I always try to think about it. It could have been worse, you know, to make the situation a little better. It could have been worse. It could have been full of people, you know, there could have been a bunch of dead. The building could have burned and collapsed completely. Mm-hmm. I mean, the roof burned down, but to be honest, most of it is still there.
I think the sentimental value that the building has, or the reason why it's presented in such a emotional way, is because it is because we perceive it as being an iconic building and has a great importance and value to culture and society and human history. And also it has a more direct importance to Parisians and the French. Now, let me ask you this. That's why everything's presented in this kind of, again, overly emotional way. But let me ask you, do you think most French or Parisians are really that attached to the back of Notre Dame?
I think a lot of Parisians are very attached to their icons. And I'm sure that, you know, if you were in the city where this is happening and you can take the subway from your office and go and see it burn, I'm sure you must feel like you're losing something. And it must be harder than being here in California and seeing pictures on TV. You know, maybe my reaction would be different if I was living there and I went to it when it happened.
Well, what would have had to... because if you live in the city, there's a bizarre thing that happens in cities and urban places where your identity becomes entangled with it. Yeah. And it's a very... what do you call it? Like, too tired.
Phenomenology?
Yeah, phenomenological. Relationship that happens.
I'm not sure that word exists.
I don't know either. Like, it's almost superstitious. Not superstitious. It's mystical. It's like you become part of the city and vice versa, which sounds weird, but it's totally true.
No, but when you say, you know, like New York feels like home, LA feels like home, it is somehow your home at the bigger scale, right? So,
but not just home as in like a building that you live in, but it feels like part of you.
No, that's what I'm saying. Okay. When you say like, oh, New York feels like home. Right. This city feels like home. It feels like I belong there. I'm part of it, that I'm attached to it. It's strange. You know, if you see a building that you walk by every day who's being destroyed, well, it's disturbing. It's
kind of like Avatar. You know, they plug their little hair things into like the horses and they plug into the tree and they're one with the tree. Yeah. Living in New York City is like living in Avatar. But it does feel like that. And so I was wondering... What kind of building exists in New York City that also resonates with people in the same way and to the same degree as the Notre Dame?
I don't know, the Empire State Building?
No, Empire State, well, probably even more iconic than, I mean, I don't know. I guess the Empire State Building, if something happened to it, would be even more iconic or worse than the Notre Dame. Because the other thing too is that well, it's kind of a silly conversation to have, but the Notre Dame is a weird building because there is there's a very distinguished back, a front, a spire, and then the sides. Like there are different...
That's what cathedrals are.
I know. But there are very distinct elements to it. Whereas, let's say a tower, there's only one tower. If that thing goes down, the spire goes down, that's like a significant part of its identity, the spire. Notre Dame has multiple faces to it, right? And like it or not, because historians would argue that it's all important, but like it or not, the front... and the two tower portions. I don't know what you call them. Bell towers. Are they bell towers? Whatever.
Yeah,
The two towers, right? Those are the things that, if you had to pick a part of the Notre Dame to preserve, it would be that, right? And so, I don't know. I think the direct comparison we might make internally or out loud of the Notre Dame going up in flames versus some of the other iconic buildings, well, there's segments to it, and one part of it went up in flames.
That's it. I mean, again, keep being positive about it. The good thing is that like more than 3/4 of the building is made of stone.
Yeah.
So really what burned is what people actually never see, really. I mean, the one part of the ceiling, I think, collapsed, and they're going to need to fix it. But, I think the biggest problem that people have is that they get too emotionally attached to things, and they kind of refuse to let go and accept things as they happen.
Yeah, I'm sure that's part of it too, but I feel like also a lot of people just like to...
They don't like change either,
That, but they also like just to exaggerate. I mean, honestly, I think a lot of people see this as an opportunity to express some kind of emotion, even if it's fake. It's like, I mean, this is an example I heard from someone else, actually from the Ricky Gervais podcast, but like when the Queen died and they would show, footage of the funeral and they pan to the audience and there's like babies crying and kids crying. And on the podcast, Stephen Merchant's like, you could see though, the kid was not crying. He was just tired. And like this extreme attachment people suddenly express for their Queen. So you didn't fucking know the Queen. I'm not even sure what the royal family does anymore. And the same thing with the Notre Dame, the back spire of it. It's like, all right, I don't know really how attached all of us were to it. And like, let's stop pretending that, especially in America, like you're so saddened by this. Oh, this piece of history. You're just saying this because it's easy to say.
Well, yeah. And I think also if you put things back in context, Paris was victimized of, terrorism attacks the past few years.
Yeah, that's worse.
No, but people are on a level of sensibility to things that is higher than if, the last 10 years were completely fine, happy, and flower crown and stuff like that. It's they're not on edge, but their level of sensibility is much
true.
Higher.
Yeah.
And
it's palpable actually when you're in the city.
I mean, they went through like all of the different terrorist attacks who killed a whole bunch of people. They've been having those yellow jacket manifestation in Paris for the past
have to explain that.
6 months. I don't want to get into it.
Well, the yellow jacket is a term for a group of people that are protesting. It's not bees.
Yeah, well, yeah. So protests, and there was a lot of people breaking storefronts and putting, buildings on fire and things like that. And I feel like a fire itself has an image of destruction that, is hard. It's hard to fight. Like flooded, well, things are going to be there. They're just going to be damaged by water, but they're still physically going to be there. Or they're going to be destroyed to a certain level, maybe, right? Fire, it's ashes. There is nothing left.
That's true.
Tornado, same thing. Things are going to be broken, but you're still going to see pieces of it.
Well, it depends on the scale of the flood and the tornado. I mean, have you seen Twister? Or the movie Tornado?
I kind of want to watch Twister again.
Cows flying through the air? Is that the same cow? It's a fantastic line. Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, though, that there is something very... And
in history, too, like people putting things on fire to protest, to kill.
The fires of Chicago.
Fires in Paris. There's, strong fires.
This is true. Yeah, this is true. There is something very, very dangerous about seeing those flames.
And then there is the discussion of, okay, now that we lost the roof of Notre Dame.
Wait, before that, I do want to go back to... I'm glad that you explained why they didn't have more fire hoses, but like the morning when it was announced to us from your friend that this was happening, turn on the news. Like, wow, this is on fire. Okay. And when I first heard about it, I'm like, okay, this is not good, but I have a lot of things to do. I'm going to do my stuff. I presume they're going to put out the fire. Let's turn on the news. Oh, fire is pretty big. Okay, I do my stuff. Look back to, where are the fucking hoses? Where are the hoses? Look back again half an hour later. There's one dude with one hose. It's like, Jesus. Come on, France. What are you doing? And so now it's actually interesting to hear that they couldn't just put on a bunch of water because of that. But But this is the 21st fucking century.
Smoke
we go out into
detectors.
space. Where are the sprinklers? Where's the deluge? Where are the gases, the foam, whatever nonsense you're going to throw on the building? I mean, like,
Well, I don't know.
why was
but
there not better planning? And also, once it happened, again, where was like the halon or they could have done something.
Well, they could have had detectors or something, you know, a sprinkler system. It's a Gothic cathedral in the historical center of Paris. So maybe bringing that in would be a lot of work and
Halon
trouble.
bombs, man. Like they could figure it out. Just suck the oxygen out. Giant
But I think
vacuums.
he probably progressed way faster than they were anticipating. You know, I mean, this
I don't
wood
know.
was hundreds of years old. You know, one sparkle and the thing would blow out.
Yeah. So
and I'm sure knowing the French administration and legislation, people are arguing, have photo orders from this and so, you know, I mean, I don't want to make excuses, but I'm sure just that was a mess.
So according to the New York Times article, they consulted with a chief from a fire department or whatever, and he was saying that these old churches are basically they're all going to catch on fire at some point, and when they do, like, that's it. There's not much you can do. But still, in a time of crisis, when something like this is happening, I just was really annoyed that morning that so much effort and focus was on just replaying the spire falling down, or on the emotion of the event, or on the historical significance of the thing. It's like, okay, why don't you tell us what they're fucking doing to take care of this? And if they came out and said, we can't use fire hoses because it's going to, you know, too much weight or whatever, then fine. But no one was telling us anything about why it was happening this way.
Information, less information. That's why I don't like watching the news. Is that
it's not
they're
information.
selecting what they want to show you, and they're just going to brainwash you with what they decided they want to show you.
And they have to fill up a half an hour, and really all we need is 30 seconds of information. What happened? What caused it? And what are you doing to take care of it? And they cut to a camera shot of the president walking around with his people. It's like, what the fuck, man? Like, make an announcement, tell everyone what's going on. It's just,
well, he was hiding from all the French people, so he had to come out of his man cave and, you know, actually show up. Which apparently, my friend being on the scene when that happened, you know, there was a lot of people who just assembled by the cathedral and like watching and trying to find out what was going to happen. And some people, because the president was been absent for a few weeks, not responding to the yellow jacket requests and stuff like that, people were like, well, it's a little strange that this happens now when he was supposed to respond to the yellow jacket's request.
Conspiracy theories.
Which I'm like, let's not, you know, push it too far.
I wouldn't be surprised if some of these theories out there are true. But the problem is, like, I don't know. I got my own shit to take care of. And I think if more people spent time improving themselves as human beings and less time worrying about other people's shit, we'd all be better off. But, you know. So, yeah, because the building's on fire. They're really on fire. Then more on fire, and nothing's happening. I didn't understand it. So then, once it all collapsed, right? So, like I said, the Times actually has a pretty good article that explains it, and it is just the wood roof and the spire that's gone. And fairly quickly afterwards, the president of whatever arts commission, yada, 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 announced that or maybe it was the president of France, announced that they're going to have an architecture competition to see what they should do with the remains.
Yeah.
Remains is not even the right word. Like, the building's so fucking there, it just lost part of its roof.
It's not even a ruins, because there is a good chunk of it that's there. It's
so
just
what do you think, one, about the fact there is an architecture competition and the proposals you've been seeing? And we're not going to go through all of them. There's
that's a
surplus.
question I asked my parents. My parents were not designers or architects, and who, you know, are living in like small towns and are attached somehow to like old things, like old buildings and stuff. I was like, yeah, so they're planning to do a competition. What do you guys think about that? And my parents were like, what? My dad was like, well, why not? You know, it would be interesting to see a new roof on top of an old cathedral. Like, that could be, like, you know, like very progressive thinking. Like,
or a catastrophe.
Like, let's not, you know, rebuild it identically. Maybe we could try something different, which I was like, oh, I'm pretty surprised you just said that, but okay. And then I think the first thing I saw was Norman Foster proposing this glass roof with glass spire to replace what was gone, which, you know, conceptually it's a nice response, because in a way you're replacing what was massively present from the past into almost an outline of what was there by using glass, right? But then immediately I was like, well, it's kind of stupid, isn't it? Because there's still like the stone vaults and stuff inside. The stone ceiling is still there. So if you put a glass roof, what is it for?
Well, and I agree with that. That's my first thought as well. But the diagram I'm saying, which someone added text to this drawing. I don't know if that was by Foster's office. I don't know. But it says the glass roof would allow natural light to illuminate the space below. And the space below, what does that mean? Does that mean like the floor of the cathedral, or does that mean the attic? Because it's the attic, who the fuck cares? And if it's the floor of the cathedral, then you're radically changing what it's like to be inside, which I would not want to do.
Yeah.
So do you think they should have had a competition?
I think, you know, maybe it was a good response to kind of calm down everyone, you know, like, we're going to take care of it. We're going to bring our best designers and architects to think about how we can rebuild our icon. Like, you know, we're not letting everyone going crazy about the loss. We're kind of addressing the problem right away, which I think for the crowd was probably a good way to respond to it. So far, from what I've seen of proposal or joke proposal of what the roof should be, is kind of insane.
Yeah.
And I hope that, you know, when they decided to launch that idea, that either they're going to take it very seriously, or they're going to forget about this idea of doing a competition, or they're just going to do an ID competition, you know, to get people excited about it without having to build it.
There's an Instagram profile called Notre Dame, as in like damn, Notre Daym, and they have on there, I don't know when this was made. Oh, this was, I think, created after the fire, and they already have like 1,800 followers, and they have a bunch of different proposals. It seems, I guess it was made before or after. I don't know, but anyway. Yeah, the ones I've seen fall into the categories that you mentioned.
The one I saw one, and I think I commented it. I was like, oh God, this almost makes me wish like the whole cathedral burned down. Like, if you're going to do something that bad, just destroy it all. Like, what's the point?
I think the proposals are struggling because not much of it burned down. And in my mind, it's a restoration project. It's not a... If half of it burned down, then it's a question like, what do you do? Because like we have square footage to make up. There's safety issues. People still want to visit it. How do we deal with new circulation paths or whatever? Or we need to add a new addition to it, right? Like an addition being added to the Guggenheim in New York, you know, or like, you know, there's some kind of conversation, but we're really just talking about a fairly small footprint of roof and one spire. And so for me, just make it the way it was before. At most, if you want to add a new spire that has something different about it, use some different, fine, you could do that. But it's not really here. It doesn't really matter.
And again, it's not something that, you know, people are going to have their face on and look at it and say, oh, this is fake. Oh, this is like a repair. It's the roof. It's, you know, you just need to have that enclosure back, and you need the form and the outline to look like what it was before. And
because
that's enough.
The two towers are still there. The rose window, they have a couple, those are still there. The giant arches are still there. The interior will still be very much close to the same. Like, why are we even talking about doing radical proposals? The only thing I could see that would be interesting is if somehow they could increase accessibility to, you know, tourist accessibility to that area of the cathedral, because I think it would be interesting to experience the cathedral from a new vantage point. But that's not a formal material or tectonic or architectural like change. That's a change in program and enhancement in program potentially for us to have more insights and better understanding of things and reflect whatever, and a new viewpoint of the city. But see, all of that is not what a lot of architects think as architecture, right? All the proposals you see, that we see, are focusing on like weird forms and stuff. What?
Well, they're focusing on trying to make it a monument. It's already a
monument. If you want to increase and enhance the experience of the monument and further understanding of it and Paris, I'm on board with that. But I'm not on board with like crazy parametric stuff for no fucking reason. And I don't know. I some of the responses I know they do them as jokes, and other people do them maybe semi-seriously. But either way, I think it's clickbait, and I find it grotesque, and I think it's just like it's like architects, they have this urge to do this and they can't control the urge. You're like teenagers who want to jack off and they can't control it, so they have to do it. And here's my thing. Everyone look, isn't that funny? It's like, I don't know. Even if they meant it to be funny, it's clickbait. I don't understand it. Yeah. And I've not heard anyone, a lot of people talk about like things I mentioned, and maybe people are talking about it. And if they have, those are probably also the people who aren't interested in producing clickbait, which is why we don't hear about it. So I think it's totally wacky, and you know what? We will submit our proposal to the competition. It'll be the exact fucking same thing as before, but it'll allow people to go up there and see things. That's the proposal, and that's what it should be, if anything. And actually, Meyer has that in his. He has a little viewing platform, and a lot of people have this idea. Have a little viewing, or not Meyer, Foster, and I think that's cool. But the conversation should be about understanding what was there and not producing some new wacky thing that has nothing to do with whatever. The building's still there. It's still there. I mean, if I were the building and the building had a personality and a brain, I'd be like, excuse me, I'm still here. Stop trying to glue on weird shit to me. Like all my limbs are working, you know, like I just burned my back a little bit. Don't be adding robot parts to me. It's not necessary. Yeah. I think it's rude.
What sucks too is that they were in the process of a big restoration, I think, of the roof of
that was part of the issue.
Cathedral, and it just had some kind of big budget to take care of it. And I think a few days before the fire happened, they had some copper statue on the roof all around that they each took down in pieces with a crane to be removed, to be cleaned up off-site, right? And actually, thank goodness they did that before the fire. So, you know, like you said, if they were going to fix it, they could actually put those authentic statue back up.
Yeah, just fix it.
And it's really, you know, for your aerial view with your drone, that's not going to look the same. Or if you're like nose to nose with the roof.
I mean, you could also make it out of the same materials and same fashion, same everything. It would just look new, and that's fine. I mean, it's pretty common for landmarks to be rebuilt, even entirely. Like the White House, I'm pretty certain, like it burned up and they rebuilt the thing. It's not like we walk by going, well, it's not the original anymore.
The White House is not hundreds and hundreds of
years
old.
I know, I'm just using an example, but there's plenty of things where they do serious restoration or they rebuild it, and it's considered then like a replica, and we don't walk by it going, this is a sham. No, we recognize this was a really iconic, important piece of architecture for what it was exactly, so we're putting it back the way it was. Totally valid. Right, especially when we're talking about like 5% of the building. Yeah. Totally valid. So enough of this nonsense, people. Let's get back to what things should be.
Let's get back to dragons.
Let's get back to, so is there anything else in that? I don't. Yeah.
Well, my last question would be: do we know what caused the fire?
Not that no, I don't think so.
Was it one of the construction guy taking a smoke
having a cigarette
on his scaffolding?
Eating some pain au chocolat.
I mean, the other thing too is that churches instead always have candles. It's like, just use the fake one with the battery, you know? Like, don't even bother.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be okay if they don't mess with it. I think if they mess with it, then you're gonna.
I mean, I've seen proposals that were so stupid that they were like having a whole new design for the plaza and like a whole new program, and I'm like, what are we even doing?
You know, there's a recording we did way long ago because there's a tower in New York that was designed by a female architect in SOM, and it was a semi a big deal because it was done by like one of the first female architects at SOM or whatever. And they wanted the company that owned it, Citibank? No, Chase Bank? Chase?
I think Chase.
One of the banks, right?
I think Chase.
they have offices there or headquartered there or something, and so they wanted to tear it down and build a new building. Huge debate because there's a tower, and they had just revamped the
cladding,
the cladding and HVAC mechanical system, so it's green, and also because it was designed by a woman. Huge debate, and at that time, I think I was arguing for tearing it down. I mean, I could see both ways. I could see reasons for it, but I was arguing for tearing it down because I felt like this was a great opportunity to build something new and more interesting and better, and also they needed something taller. And my general feeling with that particular structure is I still think that would be the better route. Partly because building in New York City is a rare opportunity. And also, I don't think the architecture was that interesting.
Is it a rare opportunity?
Huh?
Is it?
It's not that common. I mean, there's a lot of construction for sure, but on Park Avenue, that height, like someone could do something really cool. But also, the thought was that like the building I didn't think was that interesting. It's of a certain era, but there's a lot of other buildings of that era that look like that. But that comes back to the discussion we had with Wes, like does every building needs to be so special, or could we just be okay by having buildings that are not? We need both. We need both. And I think the ones that are icons are the ones you try and keep. And the one in New York was not an icon. Yeah,
but then you're living in the city of icons if that's the only ones you keep.
Well, this presumes that you have the ability to destroy every building that's generic. We're talking about two very specific buildings that were listed for deconstruction or suffered a fire. I'm just saying that I think the Notre Dame deserves to be restored because it's the fucking Notre Dame, and other buildings that are not architecturally as iconic, you don't have to keep. You can replace them. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, going back to that building in New York, I think you can transform it without needing to tearing it down and adding another 10th story of sandwich on top of it. You know what I mean? There is other ways. It's just a matter of ego and like ownership. Like, oh, I want to do my building, so I'm going to tear this one down. Instead of being like, okay, let's just be responsible guys here. Like, a lot of work has been done. We can probably like giving a good facelift and like change like key moments of the building to make it more special than what it is, without having to demo a 30-story or however many stories is the building.
Yeah, but that's an argument primarily based on reusing materials or not wasting things and being environmentally responsible, right? And responsible with energy.
No,
and stuff
but
like
it's
this.
Also a matter of questioning what is architecture. Does it always need to be ground up construction to represent value, or can using existing structure and transforming them could be perceived as good? Like, there is always this feeling that if you deal with an existing structure and you transform it, it's never as magnificent or as good of a value as a brand new building with new footings and new foundations and all that.
Oh, that's interesting.
You know, like it feels like you're not spending that much money, or it's not as good of a value. Yeah. I mean, at least that's how I think a lot of people think about it. But it would be interesting to, re-question that.
No, I think that's a perception most people have, and that's a really interesting point, actually. Even amongst like peers in design, oh, I do remodels. You do remodels? I do ground up. Wow, remodels are more difficult a lot of times, more of a challenge, and can be just as successful. That's a good point.
And doing a ground up building where this building wasn't as good, there's no guarantee what you're going to be doing is going to be better than that.
No, that's true too. But I think the issue I had with the one in New York was that there was a lot of weight being placed on the fact it was done by a female architect, and people were arguing that its architecture, its form and material and pattern or whatever was like deserved preservation. And my reading was like, no, it's not anything special.
No,
like, come on, just get over it. So yeah, if the president or whoever's in charge of making decisions for the Notre Dame decides to go with one of these kinds of wacky proposals, I would be shocked. I'd be shocked, and I think it would be a stupid thing to do. And I know that Paris is actually fairly progressive. I mean, like the pyramid with the Louvre, right?
But that was pretty elegant and really well done.
Elegant and well done, and also it didn't really disrupt the Louvre, like physically. And it brought a lot more to it when the Louvre was needing more program and things like this. And there's the Grand Projet, and there's a lot of really interesting contemporary modern architecture that happens. And I'm not against that. I think cities need to evolve, but the amount in Detroit was so tiny. Like, just put it back. It's a simple thing. There's plenty of other spaces in Paris where you can do fantastic, interesting work that doesn't at the same time disrupt something historic. Again, if half the building collapsed, then yeah, we got to figure something out. And that's going to be a very difficult problem to solve. That's going to involve architecture, but that's not the case.
I wonder what they're doing right now with the building. Like, is it like, there is like big tarp on it, like
a blue tarp
with some bricks to hold it in place.
I don't know. So going back to the Twin Towers, which I don't want to go on a huge tangent, but obviously when that happened, what do you do in place of that? And it's not the same thing as the Notre Dame. And they had a competition, and the proposals were some of them were very expected, very kind of like mainstream, right? And some of them were more radical. Actually, Richard Meyer had a proposal. It was like this hashtag thing. It's kind of weird. I don't know, hashtag
30 by 30 grid.
Yeah. He's like, well, we could do a big grid on the building. Yes, but also the building is a grid. All right, Richard. Yes, we can do that. It was actually quite elegant, like what he was proposing, just formally. But I think one of the more interesting ideas that actually Michael Sorkin had, if I remember correctly, I'm 99% certain I do remember this correctly, is that he felt that they should just have left the gaping hole and made it into a big park. And this is a guy who lived in New York, I don't know if his entire life, but a really fucking long time. Like, he's a New Yorker. He felt that what happened was so severe and was so permanent socially that you have to honor that, and to do anything else to build on top of it is to not represent the seriousness and the weight of what happened, the actuality of the event, that you have to leave that big crevice, what was there, and you let landscape and greenery take over. One, as a kind of the memorial, the thing itself becomes the memorial.
The scar, basically. The
scar, which is kind of an aggressive and nasty sounding word, but the physical results of that attack is the memorial, is the foundation for it, and that the idea that becomes a big, just purely capital P public green space, which New York needs more of down there, and is an idea or a proposal that I've thought about, and I think it makes sense. I'm generally more interested in, like, how can we do something new to further conversations, whatever. But in that particular instance, given the scale of it, I think that makes sense. And also, the idea of creating a new public space that, again, has a lot of green, like it's an opportunity to have that.
Yeah, it would be super contaminated. So
well, rather than putting what's there, which is a bunch of new towers, a bunch of commercial and Louis Vuitton and Prada and Chanel, it's fucking gross.
That's the biggest problem, is that, all of those projects are just lobbied by big entities that are going to dictate what is going to happen. Like, if it doesn't bring money, not interested.
That's why the public park proposal is so interesting and provocative. And,
you make it a huge cemetery,
Well, I think it always will be a kind of cemetery. I don't know if you need to make it an actual cemetery with like little stones.
Well, the thing is, people take selfies at the fountains right now. You don't take selfies at the cemetery.
Look at me.
No, but that's kind of what it's a little disturbing in a way. It becomes some kind of touristy icon when really it should be a place of memory,
Place of memory. And that's why, again, the public park thing is interesting, because it's just about people. There's landscape, which is about as natural as you can get, right? Other than God himself, and the people. When you're there, what do you see? You see New Yorkers and tourists. You see people, and you see the physical, the form of it from what happened, and you see landscape. Like, this is a very nice thing, as opposed to going there. And what do you see now? a bunch of security, which is understandable, a bunch of new glass buildings that have some, pseudo iconic value that we all assign to it just because we call it the Freedom Tower. Now it has this meaning.
A museum where you have to pay to get in.
Yeah, and a lot of really, really expensive retail that's for the 0.01%, which is the
Retail
gross thing
and
about
offices.
New York City and the modernization of world and consumerism and all these things. Like, this is a fucking catastrophe what we've had happen. And what's the subway terminal, heart of public transportation? That sounds nice. What do you put on top? A $1 billion structure that it could easily be argued looks like a big white turd. It costs a lot of money and houses a ridiculous program. Yeah. It's
houses, stores that you can't even buy a keychain
I don't
at.
know. And I wonder if like 100 years from now, when we or people look back on the history of New York, if they see that as like, okay, that was the that sealed the deal for New York and its identity toward toward a path of just crazy privatization of public space and consumerism and all these things. Like this was the turning point, or this is the thing that really solidified that New York has decided it's going to go this way. And everything they've done since then has been in that direction. Hudson Yards is just is grotesque. It's disgusting. And it's I think for those who are outside, I think for anyone who has a heart, but I think also for academics who research these things and they don't have skin in the game of making money, it's discouraging to see this, and it's not very reassuring. It's not very reassuring. And I don't know. I think replacing things that have been lost is always an interesting project. Memorials and things like this are interesting.
Well, how do you address something that you lost? Right?
How do you address it? And I think also in some kind of bizarre way, treating the Notre Dame like one of these others is kind of like is kind of disrespectful to actual loss, people who actually died in things, and then disrespectful to other buildings that were actually destroyed, as opposed to ones that just lose like their portion of their skin. It's very odd. It's very, very strange.
The other question is, do you even need to rebuild anything?
Say again?
The other question is, do you even need to rebuild anything for Notre Dame? Could you just, build a cover to protect it, from the climate, the rain and stuff, but leave it as is?
Yeah.
There is something interesting with ruins too.
That's
that
true.
present themselves partially what they were, but leave out a part of their history and identity. And
well, I mean, so if this happened to the Eiffel Tower, which is again a different beast because the Eiffel Tower is boink, one tower and four legs, so there's not any. It doesn't have multiple faces to it. It's just as is it. So I don't know if maybe the Eiffel Tower lost at the top, like you just cut off the tip. If let's say that happened, then I guess it would be a similar discussion. Like, what do you do? And
it's just to take it for what it is.
Put a big mushroom hat.
Like, it's weird that humans, or at least our civilization, always wants to fix things. To make it, to their best, so it looks good, so it presents yourself the way it should be. And sometimes I'm the type of like, plants are growing, let them grow. They decide to grow there, let them grow. Why do they have to follow that edge? Why do they have to be on that side? Like, it's, you have to learn to look at it differently now. You can't put the same judgment on it as the one you had before.
Yeah.
You just have to look at it and accept it differently. It's just things change. The world changed.
I think that's an interesting idea, that you have to adapt to what's going on. And I think it's especially interesting if you're dealing with an alteration that causes a larger scale change, like the circulation of people, if streets get shut down or opened up or something. I think that becomes interesting, right?
Yeah.
We're dealing with such a superficial destruction in this case.
Yeah, and the problem with the Eiffel Tower again would be that, well, if you take one level down, then that means we won't make as much money, so we just rebuild it, or like put some shit. It's an attraction. It's not even a.
It would be weird to see the Eiffel Tower without its top. Your eye goes up. Oh, no. What happened? Yeah. Yeah. What is the building that's across the Eiffel Tower? The only giant tower in that area of Paris.
Tower?
Yeah. And they had a competition for that one too, to reskin it. We might have talked about it before.
The Black Tower?
Yeah, I think so. It's the only tower.
It's not across.
It faces the Eiffel Tower. It's like in line with the Eiffel Tower.
The only big tower that sticks out that's black in Paris, I think, is the Tour Montparnasse, which sucks. I mean, it's always sucked. No one ever liked it.
It's the one when you're standing on the Eiffel Tower, you look right at it. It's right in front of you. Not adjacent, like right in front, as in line with the tower.
Oh, yeah, it's probably that
That's
one.
the one, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's a strange thing. Paris should not have let that happen. I'm not quite sure why that happened.
Well, who did they have that was supposed to build this pyramid housing tower? Was that Foster?
No.
Big?
Was that Herzog?
Herzog,
Maybe. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I don't have anything else to say with the Notre Dame. Right?
Yeah.
Fix it. Let's move on.
Or you could say that, well, next time there is a fire at Notre Dame, maybe you should have a big dragon that could spit water on it.
Dragons don't spit water.
Well, you can get a different kind of dragon that can spit water.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about dragons. I kind of want a little dragon.
What for?
I don't know. Walk around with.
What, is this the transition to Game of Thrones?
Well, yeah. Today's Saturday, tomorrow's Sunday.
Yep. Okay. Smooth. We're getting better at the transitions. So actually, it's kind of a bummer because this is going to be released probably this Tuesday, which will be a week and a few days after the episode we're going to talk about.
Oh well.
Yeah. So the third episode of the final season, where they have the big battle at Winterfell. We watched it, and we must talk about it.
What happened?
I don't know.
I
literally don't know. I'm just confused the entire time.
Who was leading the plan of attack for that battle?
Apparently, it was, I don't know how to say his name, Jorel Landar?
The Australian guy?
The one that he looks like he's from Australia, but he's not Australian, yeah.
He looks so much like he's from Australia.
He's like most manly man
like
ever.
So smoky smooth.
I guess he was leading it, and he's the first one that went out.
But who came out with the plan?
I don't know. Not really
That's
talked about.
the problem.
Not really talked about. That was the majority of the episode was the most confusing thing ever to watch. It was a terrible battle, confusing, also too dark. We were watching with a little bit of light on, but still too dark. Couldn't see what was going on a lot of the times, and it just was confusing. And I don't think they had a strategy. And if they did, it wasn't clear to us. And I don't think it worked for them either, really. So I don't know what that was about. An hour and a half, kind of wasted. Game of Thrones. You have 6 episodes. You fucked one up.
It was an hour and a half of just basically a battle.
Like I
want my money back.
I don't know what they did. And I think that part of the issue is that when you see a big battle sequence, it's going to be compared against Battle of the Bastards, which was really well done, and compared more likely against like Lord of the Rings battles because they're going up against a fortress.
Or the previous one that they've done in the earlier
Or the previous ones. And it was so sloppy. They have the Dothraki right out into the abyss, which I'm like, why are you riding out into blackness? This seems like a really bad idea.
Wait for them.
And everyone else is standing there, and that doesn't work out. So it's like, what, 5,000 Dothraki ride out? And then you see all of their flames, because they have flaming swords, slowly go out. And then you see like 3 Dothraki ride back. And you're like, wait, what just happened? Did they give up? Or are they injured? Have they become White Walkers? We don't know, because they rode back so quickly, and there's only a few. What happened to the rest of them? Yeah. And then the zombies come, and the problem is the White Walkers now are basically just zombies.
I was so annoyed at that. Like, I was expecting so much more from the White Walkers and just being stupid zombies again. Like, I feel like we got our doses of zombies. Like, we need to move on from zombies.
Okay, there's a few things in medieval battle sequences I never understand. One, if you have zombies that are running 25 miles an hour at you, or people with horses riding at 25 miles an hour, and why would you just stand there still with a spear like this? That makes no sense. I don't get that.
Just run back to your castle.
And also, they always have giant catapults with flaming balls or like arrows with flames. and they're all holding, and then one guy goes, loose, and they all wait. Then like 10 minutes of the battle goes by, and it's chaos because they've all gotten past. Fucking shoot all of your arrows. Shoot all of your arrows because you're going to hit something. Why are you saving your arrows? And I would like to see one battle sequence where those two things don't happen. And because of those two things, like maybe when the battle gets to the fort, it's more understandable.
Well, and we know that the White Walker would die if you burn them, right? You have 2 flying dragons. Why wouldn't you try and burn as many as you can first? Also, it's not like fire runs out of a dragon, right?
It's true.
So, I mean, you could just keep running the fire.
I guess they were, I had heard that the Dothraki went out because there's a strategy to get the Night King to come forward, to lure him out. But
he would have come forward eventually at some point. He would have come
forward eventually, and it just, so many things did not make sense. And in addition, the direction or cinematography or the edit, this was really confusing.
Yeah.
It was kind of like 100% intensity the entire time with a few breaks. And that kind of doesn't work because there's no story to it then. It's just chaos and then stop and then chaos and then stop. So
even the action scene of fighting were not that amazing. Like they didn't do any zoom out of one character to show how they're fighting or action. It's kind of like general shots. So you could see some of the characters and you knew here and there, but nothing that was really engaging, you know.
Or they were like way too close because they do this thing very often where they put the camera super tight, so it's just stuff happening, swords and blood and screaming. But you know, for me, those are good to convey emotion and chaos. That's about it. You can't do that a bunch of times because it's not bringing anything else to the table. It's not showing us anything else. And they just did that over and over. And their main characters, and everyone's wondering who's going to die. And that's like the big thing in everyone's minds. The main characters were always shown in a position where they are about to die. A swarm of zombies. And they get saved. A swarm of zombies. They're about to die. Oh, they're saved. A swarm of zombies. We cut to something else, come back, and they were alive. It's like, all right. There were like 20 undead on them. I think they would have died. It just, there's no arc, there's no crescendo, there's no tension, really. It was just, it was way too extreme. And they do the same thing that a lot of battle sequences do. They go super tight into, you know, things like I said, and then way far out. We can't see anything. Then super tight again. And I don't know why they do that.
Also, what is with putting everybody in the basement with the dead people? Like, don't you want to put them like in the highest point of the castle and just put a shit ton of guards at the bottom? No, you're going to put them with dead bodies that who knows what can happen to those dead bodies.
Someone tweeted out like days before that episode aired, like, so you're going up against the mega villain, the super villain, and his one power is to raise the dead, right? And you're going to put all the women and children in the crypts. Like, is this the stupidest thing ever?
That's why I'm asking who was in charge of that plan. Maybe it was deliberate that, you know, children and women would be down there.
I don't know.
They wanted to be killed.
Whoever was responsible should not be king or queen of Westeros because they don't know fucking shit. And the other thing that didn't make sense with the crypt scene is that, so they do come alive. And I would assume that the crypts are made out of stone. So why are the zombies able to punch through
the actual
enclosures,
like graves?
Yeah, caskets or whatever you call it.
Yeah.
Like, why are they able to punch through stone?
I don't know. They're super zombies, I guess.
That didn't make sense. Actually, someone was telling me that they're not made of stone; they're made out of clay. But I don't think they'd be made out of clay. I'm pretty sure they'd be made out of like granite.
They would be made out of stone.
And then when they come alive, the way that shot is like you're looking at the side of one of the coffins. I don't know what you call them, coffins. Hand goes through. Holy shit, the undead, the White Walkers are inside. There's a girl sitting next to the fist that goes through. She looks at the fist and goes, oh. And she steps back by a foot. She goes, oh my. Okay. And like literally it's like 20 seconds of this. And then the thing crawls out and she's still like, oh no. And all of the White Walkers just come out of there. And then everyone else in the tomb, in the crypt, they're like, oh no, what do we do? And I'm like, this is the stupidest thing ever. Someone's fist, a skeleton just punched through the side of the thing, and you're gonna stand there and stare at it and scream that you're afraid.
Game of Thrones director,
Leave the crypt! Leave the crypt!
You traumatized David.
I couldn't believe it. It was crazy. And then Sophie Turner's character, what's her name? Sansa,
Oh yeah.
right? Arya gives her a blade. Take this, then go down below.
What?
I don't know what to do with this. Oh, fuck's sake. You don't deserve to have
And she
anything.
tells her, use the pointy side.
It's just, I don't know. And even
But I feel like it's pretty consistent to Game of Thrones, right? You know, there is episodes that are really good and a lot of episodes that are extremely frustrating, where either nothing happens or a lot of stupid things happen, right? This one was just like a lot of stupid
This
things.
was a lot of stupid in one episode. A lot of stupid. And even the dragon fighting. So you have a dog fight between 3 dragons. Okay, this is going to be awesome. I've never seen this before, really, outside of Train My Dragon, a cartoon. It was a terrible fight scene.
Yeah.
Again, they okay, I understand the Night King has the power to like make everything smoky and cloudy, and that would cause problems and present conflicts for them to deal with. But as a viewer, then I'm basically just looking at white clouds, and that's not very interesting, is it? Okay, so maybe we don't do that. But so there's just white clouds, and it goes from close-ups of Daenerys and Jon Snow riding their dragons, being lost in the clouds. So it's just them on a green screen with clouds being like, I don't know. And then shit flying by. And then all of a sudden, Jon's dragon, who he's riding, and Daenerys' dragon, who she's riding, hit each other. Now, the sky is a pretty fucking big place. How is it that 2 dragons manage to hit themselves when they're like presumably brothers or sister dragons? That's crazy. That's stupid. That's all. That's as stupid as the girl next to the tombstone, next to the grave. Like, how is that possible? You're telling me these 2 dragons who are screeching and breathing fire, they don't have the senses to know that they're going to collide with the other dragon that they were raised with? Makes no sense. And the fight scene between them 2 and the night dragon was not good either.
The only character that really saved the whole episode was Arya.
But she, because of the end, or because of her fighting, or because...
Well, for sure because of the end, but also like we were talking about, the scene in the library was really good.
Yeah, I went on a bit, but yeah.
Well, it was still, I mean, compared to the rest of the episode, it was pretty good.
The part that confused me a little bit was that she's outside kicking ass, right? And then things start to go not well. She starts to lose because there's too many. So she goes inside, which seems like a terrible idea to go inside in a fight like this. She goes inside, and then her emotion and her confidence completely changes from like, I'm going to kill everyone, I'm nameless, I'm no one, I can do anything, to I'm super afraid of the dark and a handful of these things inside, even though I still have knives and blades with me. I didn't get that.
Well, maybe she wasn't thinking, that might just have revealed that she's human after all,
human.
and she does have emotion and fear. And
I understand if they wanted.
non-thinking,
I understand if they wanted that change to happen in an episode, but it happened super quickly. Like one moment she's fighting, then the next moment she's afraid and hiding under tables from one. Like, just stab it in the face and be done with it. Oh. No, it makes sense. What else with this episode did not make sense? Oh, they have the pit around the castle, the trench, really tiny trench, which I did not understand, and the witch of light, the red witch, the sexy red witch, who's actually an old woman who likes to just like fuck people and light things on fire selectively. By the way, she probably could have done more before walking off into the distance. I felt like.
I mean, does she not know more of those, like, formulas that can make stuff happen?
I think her character is a problem because it's kind of like, we're going to have her powers just when we want them, but when we really need them, she's not going to have them.
I mean, she birthed a smoky ghost that went to kill a king, right? Like, she can birth like 30 of them that go kill the White Walkers.
Yeah, then the Night King's death was pretty satisfying. I was shocked by that one, but it was really good.
But again, the whole story with the White Walkers and that king is an unknown.
Yeah.
Like, we don't really understand what their role was in that show. And
It felt very rushed in his ending. And this was a criticism, a thing I didn't like about Game of Thrones from the very beginning, is that in the very first episode, they show you White Walkers. And you're like, well, what the fuck is this?
And then they're gone.
And then they're gone for like 3 seasons, and they show up like once or twice. And you expect like all these different arcs to begin to meet. And they do in terms of the main cast. That's where it gets interesting. And you expect the White Walkers to also, maybe it will happen, we have another 3 episodes, that when they show up and it comes to a conclusion, there's going to be some reward for us waiting to find out, not just to see the battle, but to find out like why are they here? Yeah. What does it take to get rid of them? Is there more to it? Because presumably there's more to it since we've been teased for so long. And then nope, all it took was dragon glass and someone who was trained with the nobody people for a few weeks or whatever it was, stab him in the gut, and then it's all over. It's kind of like, all right, it's a lot of build up for nothing, and seems to have no effect on other things. I mean, people, it united everyone together, but it's more of like a plot device than it is an actual character.
It's and it's more like a big distraction to loop back around to who is actually the bad guy in that show. Yeah.
I mean, the dead people served to unite everyone against Cersei, but that's all they did, and I don't think that's enough for all this fucking around. Like, there's probably more than that, right?
Maybe she's a White Walker.
That's the other thing. I don't think they can do a major twist like that because it just wouldn't make sense.
I kind of wish that they're going to make it a big twist. Otherwise, it's just going to be everybody fighting Cersei and, have her probably dead because it's going to end well.
Well, 3 episodes, we will see what happens. I do not think they did enough to prepare for the White Walkers, even though they had one night. Maybe instead of hanging around the fire and trading stories and knighting people for no reason, then we could, build more trenches.
Are they doing spin-off?
That's what I hear, but I don't know. Maybe. So pretty confident that if I were leading the strategy in that battle, I could have come up with a better plan. But,
everyone, grab your X-Acto.
It was really
March
really
in a 30 by 30 grid. That would be my idea.
Thanks, everyone, for listening to this week's episode of the Midnight Charette. We hope you enjoyed it. We are on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube sometimes, and all of our previous episodes, which most of them are not on YouTube because that's a new thing, are at our website, midnightcharette.com. Thank you for listening. It's very, very much appreciated. We'd like to mix it up with some informative things and most often reflections and musings and thoughts and explorations on architecture and everyday life. And it seems to be well received by a lot of people. And if you're one of those people, then show us your love by leaving a review in the podcast app. That means something to us, and also means something to in the broader scope of how successful this podcast becomes at rankings and things like this. And we do want to spread the word, and that's something that we are striving for. So help us out by leaving us a review. That would be awesome. You can find us on all the social medias. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you name it, we're probably there. Reach out to us that way or via email. Let us know if there's anything that you think we should be talking about, like the Notre Dame, for instance, or anything else in the future.
I like that you said the Notre Dame. There's only one.
Well, it distinguished itself from the football team and the school.
Okay, but they're not even close in the ranking.
Also, what happens with the Hunchback? Does he?
The what?
The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
What's the Hunchback?
You know the Hunchback? The Disney movie. There's a Hunchback.
Oh, Quasimodo?
Yeah. Did he die?
Was that a real story?
He must have died in the fire.
What? Oh, good.
Oh, wow.
Well, it was pretty.
You don't like this, the disabled? Is that what you're saying?
I'm a disabled.
Okay. When you stare at me that way, I believe it. Yes, you're disabled.
I'm technically disabled, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I believe you. Okay. That's it for this week. We will talk to you again soon. Thanks to our sponsors again, Graphisoft, Nod, and check out Mike's program, the Young Architect Conference. And we will talk to you again next week. That's it. Thanks. Bye.
Ciao.